Okay, well, let us know when we're on.
You're on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Welcome to the Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee. Today's Tuesday, January 26th. Those who are listening, tuning in, public, thank you so much for joining us. To city staff from our respective departments, thank you for being here. Mr. Clerk, can you read the opening protocols in compliance with the governor's order?
Yes, sir. John White, City Clerk. In conformity with the Governor's Executive Order N2920, March 17th, 2020, and due to concerns over COVID-19, this Los Angeles City Council committee meeting will be conducted telephonically. The audio for this meeting is broadcast live on the internet at www.lacity.org/government/follow meetings/council-committee-meetings. The live audio can also be heard at 213-621-CITY, 818-904-9450 in the Valley, 310-471-CITY in the West Side, and 310-547-CITY in San Pedro. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252. That's 669-254-5252, and use meeting ID number 161-863-2891. That's ID number 161-863-2891, and then press the pound symbol. Press the pound symbol again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir.
With that, let's now move on. Roll call.
Mr. Buscaino.
Here.
Mr. Bonin.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Present.
You have 3 members in attendance and a quorum, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. With that, I'd like to welcome John Lee to our committee, his first T3 committee. It's a good group here. John, you'll enjoy working with this team here. But one directive is that you will be responsible for increasing trade by 20% in the next 60 days and increase passengers, even with this COVID, by 25% in the next 60 days. So we'll hold you to that. Thank you very much for volunteering that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mark Adams, I'm going to need your help with that.
Welcome aboard, John. This is going to be a good run.
Just make sure the flights all go into Van Nuys.
So are you amending those orders, Mike?
So moved.
Great. Welcome, John. With that, colleagues, turn to today's agenda. Let's take public comment. I believe we have a few members of the public who'd like to speak on some items. With that, I'll turn over to Dennis Gleason to lead us in the public comment section of today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dennis Gleason, CD15 staff. To members of the public calling in, when it is your turn to speak, please state which of the agenda items you would like to speak on. You will have 1 minute to speak on a single item, 2 minutes to speak on multiple items, and if you wish, 1 additional minute for general public comment. Please speak on the items first. Before providing general public comment, we will tell you when your time is up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell if you are speaking on an agenda item, you will get 1 brief warning from me, the city attorney, or the chair. If you do not immediately get clearly on topic or stray off topic, the chair will cut you off and you will forfeit the rest of your speaking time, and we will move on to the next speaker. We will take 40 minutes total of public comment. And finally, for members of the public calling in to speak, as soon as you hear someone address you, you are live in the committee meeting. If you are also listening to the meeting on your computer, on council phone, or another device, please turn down the volume on those devices immediately. There is a time delay between the live meeting and the broadcast, and it will cause confusion if you continue to listen on your other devices. Thank you. First caller, phone number ending in 0899. Please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, this is Stacy Dawson Stearns. I just want to make a general public comment, please.
Go ahead, you have 1 minute.
Okay, Council Member Buscaino, Jelly Buckets, you're the chair of this committee, and I know you think it's cute to start things out and joke around, but you're talking with staffer B. You guys, this committee should not have John Lee on it. John Lee should not be in any committees at this point in time. How many allegations, how much criminal activity in this body needs to happen before y'all realize you got to cut some ties? All right, we've got Englander, we've got Huizar, and we're cleaning up the mess. Vaughn, I'm talking to you because I know you're the only one listening to me right now, but we got to clean up the mess. We're still working on all the crap that was left behind.
Caller.
Excuse me. Yes.
Caller,
Yes, Buckets, is that you?
No, this is the city attorney, Stephen Hong. What topic are you speaking on? Is this general? Is it general public
I'm speaking
comment
on general public comment, sir.
This is a
Yes.
travel, trade, and tourism committee, so you need to confine your general comments to travel, trade, and tourism matters. Okay?
Yeah, well, I'm actually speaking about the committee, and the committee is the Trade, Travel, and Tourism Committee.
Okay,
and
ahead.
I think it's ridiculous that John Lee is sitting on any committees. I think it's ridiculous that public comment is limited in general meetings to the point where we have to call in and follow y'all into your committees just to be heard. So thanks for interrupting me, proving my point. This is ridiculous. I think that your tone is ridiculous. And John Lee should not be sitting on he's certainly not on trade.
Thank you, caller. Your time has expired. Next caller, private number. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on general public comment, please.
Go ahead, caller. You have 1 minute.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to agree with the previous caller. John Lee should absolutely not be on this committee. We already have issues with corruption on Plum. We don't need that on trade, where you guys are going to be working with all kinds of big money interest here. It's absolutely absurd that John Lee found his way onto another committee where he could be tempted to do the same things that he did while he was employed by Englander. Joey Buckets, I don't see how you could allow someone who is so weak that they were involved in taking bribes into a committee like this. I mean, you're a law and order guy, right? Big law and order guy, back to blue. How do you let John Lee onto this committee when we know for a fact he is a bribe taker? And this is a committee that lends itself to that kind of behavior. He needs to be removed immediately. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Your time has expired. Next caller with a private number, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Go ahead, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on all items and general public comment, please.
Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to welcome John Lee to this committee, just like Mr. Buscaino did. I think in Councilmember Lee, we're getting someone who has a lot of knowledge about trade and tourism and travel, specifically traveling to Las Vegas, Nevada, and taking money. And now today, here we are, we're, looking at, the airport, we're looking at CEQA exemptions, we're looking at a lot of important issues for the city. And across all of them, there's a deeply fundamental question. Can any of us trust anything that Councilmember Lee is doing on this committee or in any capacity on this council? We know he went with Mitch to Vegas and took money. We know the FBI reached out to him and Mitch. And then 2 weeks later, a letter shows up with checks from him and Mitch in identical amounts, in the same envelope, backdated to the exact same date in August. And we know from a recently released FBI transcript that Mitch Englander was coaching the guy who they took money from in how to lie to the FBI, saying, and I quote, just say, because he asked me a couple times, how much does he owe me? He and John owe me, and I didn't have an amount. I said, I'll let you know, and we never connected. But it's pretty clear that Mitch and John did connect, and they sent in those identical checks in the same envelope for the same amount. And the silence from this committee and the entire city council is absolutely deafening. To have someone who engaged in that kind of conduct and to allow them to continue to serve on committees is in itself an embarrassment. I know you might not be able to kick him off like you did with Huizar until he's indicted, but it's just absolutely embarrassing. And to sit there and to make jokes at the beginning of this meeting, knowing what he's done, knowing what he's been accused of, knowing that he refuses to acknowledge what happened, to take responsibility for what happened. It's an absolute joke and makes a mockery of all of you, every single one of you. So step up, do something about it. Get him off this committee. Tell him to leave the council. Do it.
Is there a specific item on the agenda that you were going to talk about?
Yeah, that item is John Lee and getting rid of him.
That's your
getting
general
him out of there.
Caller, that's your general public comment. What specific items were you going to also talk about on the agenda?
I don't think we can separate the corruption that John Lee has engaged in from his actions on any single one of these.
Caller, if you don't speak on a specific agenda, we're going to have to say that you've already spoken on your general public comment, and that'll be it.
Well, I mean, I think, the question of whether we have capable and non-corrupt city council representation applies on.
Okay, that concludes public comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dennis. With that, members, I'd like to turn to today's agenda. I would recommend taking items 1 through 6 on consent, unless members want to hold any of the follow 1 through 6 items on the desk.
I had a brief question for the airport on item number 2, and let me just see if I had anything. Yeah, just a quick thing on item number 2.
Very good. Let's hold item 2, members, on the desk. With that, let's take items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'll entertain a motion to approve items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So moved.
Thank you. With that, we have a motion to approve. Mr. Lee, would you second that motion?
Second.
And let's roll call vote on approval of 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Yes.
Mr. Bonin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
The recommendation is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. With that, let's now take item number 2. If you can read that into the record, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir. Item 2 is a Board of Airport Commissioners report relative to resolution number 27169 for a Los Angeles World Airports contract with HOK plus ARUP for on-call planning and design services for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options and for a cost not to exceed $50 million. And administrative exemption from CEQA as provided in Article 2, Section 2F of the Los Angeles City CEQA Guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We see here Mr. Urbachi, who's joined us, Executive Director of LAWA. Mr. Bonin, the floor is yours.
Thanks. This is just real quick. I have no issue with the item before us, but it did trigger a question for me for items like this, and we see a lot of them. And it's really about what we are doing in contracts like this to consider and to support or to incentivize involvement with small businesses. I know one of these companies is really big and is I think British. Another company is pretty big. What do we do in situations like this to make sure that we're helping out the smaller businesses and firms in Los Angeles, or what requirements do we build in to make sure that they sub with them?
So thank you for the question, Councilman Bonin. We have in all of our procurements very strong inclusivity requirements where we require the prime contractors to subcontract with a certain percentage of small business enterprises, with local business enterprises, with small local business enterprises, and with disabled veteran business enterprises. And this contract had those same inclusivity requirements. I'll let Jamal talk about that in a second, but this is a very important aspect for us. We've this inclusivity components. We've very recently upped the game in inclusivity by requiring that a certain amount of points in the evaluation criteria go towards inclusivity and the ability to meet the specific requirements that we set for each particular procurement. And we want to give extra credit to those who do more than just agree to the minimum, but go above that. We also are now making sure that these are not aspirational targets, but they're actually the requirements to meet these goals that are proposed by these vendors actually get into the contract and have teeth so that we can take action if they don't meet them. So that's generally how this was approached as we approach all our procurements. I can let Jamal Aviles and Bernardo Gonia, who Bernardo is our Chief Development Officer, and Jamal is one who is leading a lot of our procurements, who did this procurement, to talk to you specifically about the requirements in this particular contract, if you'd like.
Sure. I mean, or we could do that offline. I mean, I don't want to hold the item up. I wanted to bring it up because we are, we're the economy is in a real free fall, and the smaller companies have less ability, less wherewithal to survive them. And as we build back better, I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can as a city, as city proprietary departments, to make sure that we're supporting some of the smaller firms. So happy to talk more offline about it, but I'm okay moving forward today. So I'll move approval, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin, and thank you, Mr. Arabachi, for joining us along with your executive team here. So with that, we have a motion to approve item number 2. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Yes.
Councilmember Bonin.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
The recommendation to approve passes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. With that, I believe the desk is cleared, unless
That is
I'm
correct.
mistaken. Okay. Thank you so much. We're now adjourned. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.